Welcome to this week's episode of Cooking with Connie. So this week we're going to do a gluten-free, sugar-free blueberry crumb cake. So this will be good for a coffee break, a snack, or even breakfast. So what I'm starting with, I've got 3/4 of a cup of butter in here, and then I've got 3/4 of a cup of our monk fruit allulose. So we just switched out our sugar in this recipe. So we're going to go ahead and start mixing that up. So I've also got the juice of a lemon, and I have zested that lemon. So I use my little zester, and this is just going to give us a lot cleaner lemon flavor there. So we'll put that in there. We're going to use a couple of eggs in it. And then the star of this show is the bargain center's open back up, so we got our Connie's baking mix. So they pre-mix this at the bargain center if you don't want to have to buy all the flours, but I will include the recipe in this recipe. So this is the flour blend that we're going to be using in there for a substitute for our flour in it. So we're going to put vanilla. There's my vanilla. A teaspoon of vanilla in here. And then we're going to use some baking powder and baking soda in this particular recipe. So I got my baking powder here. So it calls for 3/4 of a teaspoon of each. So I've got my little 4th teaspoon. So I'll put 3 of each of these in there. Cup and a half of our flour blend here. I'm going to go ahead and shut this down right now while we do this so we don't have too much of a mess, and lift it up. That way we can get our flour in there. So this is my container. I just mix my flour up at home. I use enough of it. I just do my own mixing. But it's nice to be able to buy it pre-mixed, and then you don't have to buy 4 different kinds of flour to mix it yourself. All right. And then we're going to put 3/4 of a cup of sour cream. And it's funny because I got this 8-ounce thing of sour cream, and my recipe this weekend called for 1/4 of a cup, so this works out perfectly. You could also substitute Greek yogurt in here. So if you didn't want to use the sour cream and you had Greek yogurt on hand, that would be another substitution that you could do. But since I had sour cream, I just decided we would go that route with this recipe. And then, once we get that mixed up good, which it looks pretty good right now, I'm going to go ahead and stop that. And then, just make it, we've got some butter here that we need to get incorporated there. So we're going to throw the blueberries in here. And so we won't be using the mixer when we do that part of it. And then what we got here is the crumb topping. So with our crumb topping, I put 1/2 cup of butter in there, and I melted the butter. And then we added 1/2 cup of our golden monk fruit allulose and 1/4 of a cup of the white allulose. We put 1.5 teaspoons of cinnamon and then 1.5 cups of our Connie's baking mix in there. And you can see it kind of makes a nice crumb topping. So once we get everything mixed together, we're going to put it in our greased 8x8 pan. I've got my oven on at 350 degrees. All right, so we'll be throwing these lovely blueberries that we got today, nice fresh blueberries in there. And then we'll mix all this together and throw it in the pan and throw it in the oven. So we'll be back when we get this all done, and we will show you our finished product. Okay guys, we're back. This took about 50 minutes as far as baking goes. So this is our blueberry crumb cake, gluten-free, sugar-free. will be great for coffee, for breakfast, or just a good overall snack. So remember to like, share, subscribe to Cooking with Connie, and this week make some good choices out there.